Hello everyone, Just Podcast TV is here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on new contents.
The North Sea is beautiful, though frigid. James and his group sailed across it, passing between the Cornwall and Shetland Islands into the North Atlantic. After that, they rounded the Faroe Islands and finally arrived at their destination, the wild and beautiful island of Ice. Iceland is an island country in the North Atlantic, located at the intersection between the Atlantic and the Arctic Oceans. The capital is Reykjavik, also the largest city in Iceland. The southwest region near the capital accounts for 2/3 of the country's population. It is a country with many volcanoes and much dramatic geological activity. The inland is mainly made up of flat plains. The landscape also includes sandy black beaches, cooling lava plains, and icy glaciers. Although Iceland sits at the edge of the Arctic Circle, warm currents in the North Atlantic make the climate livable. The scenery is beautiful and includes one of the 10 wonders of the world, the polar lights. The country has the feeling of an idyll, and its residents, according to scientific research, are among the happiest people in the world. James and the others had arrived during the coldest season of the year, not generally considered to be the best time to travel to the island. However, it was the best time of the year to see the spectacular northern lights. They arrived early in the morning, marveling at the huge coastline that appeared before them. The meaning of the word Reykjavik is Smoky Bay. Scandinavian sailors named the city after mistaking steam from the hot springs for smoke. The hazy vista was eerily enchanting. James docked his yacht at the port of Reykjavik. Although it had not yet snowed this season, the cold, cutting wind still made the four women shiver. They were wearing very warm clothes, but this cold was not ordinary. It seemed to penetrate everything. However, the girls were very enthusiastic about the otherworldly scenery. It was worth shivering over. The port was quiet this early in the morning. The few people James's party did meet were friendly and hospitable. Their faces seemed to always be smiling. The tranquility they projected was something that no outsider could emulate. James found a local at the pier and asked him about a hotel. He graciously volunteered to escort them to one personally. This reflexive hospitality impressed James very much. He had a good feeling about the place. However, he had work to do. His first task was to complete the check-in. The city was modestly scaled with a population of only a few 100,000 people. There weren't many high-rise buildings, and most of the residential buildings were only 2 or 3 stories tall. However, the structures were colorful and bright, giving off a comfortable and warm feeling. James theorized that this was probably because the residents here wanted to add more warmth to the city, as a hedge against winter. The local man led them to a large hotel called the Reykjavik Aurora Inn, which was said to be the best hotel in Iceland. It was located in the center of the city, just a mile away from the church of Hallgrímskirkja, a famous local landmark. The church was one of the tallest buildings in the country, built on a ridge that made it visible from anywhere in the city. The architectural style was unique and very eye-catching. Anyone who saw it would remember it. James wanted to call a taxi, but Krista took his hand and said, "James, there are no taxis in this country. There are only public buses here." James was completely flummoxed. He had no idea that there were no taxis in Reykjavik. Luckily, Krista was here, or he would have embarrassed himself. Fortunately, they did not have to wait long before a bus arrived. Finally, they arrived at the Reykjavik Aurora Inn. They entered the hotel and checked in. They felt much more comfortable in their heated rooms. The ingenious geothermal system was wonderfully efficient and effective. The women's enthusiasm for the scenery remained robust. They pressed against the hotel's huge glass windows and gazed out at the unfamiliar and beautiful city outside, chattering nonstop. Satisfied that the girls were happy with their lodgings, James returned to his room and laid down to rest. Before he knew it, James had fallen asleep in his warm and comfortable room. He woke up an hour later. Having no movement from the women's room, James went downstairs and walked out of the hotel. He strode purposefully towards the Church of Hallgrímskirkja. This air was punishingly cold, but James's abnormally tough physique barely felt it. Following the street, James soon saw the world-famous church. Looked like a rocket that was about to be launched into the sky. When James arrived at the square in front of the church, he happened to see a tour guide who was explaining the long history of the church to a foreign tourist group. James could hear him clearly from afar. He learned that the church had been built in 1930, named after an Icelandic poet to commemorate his great contribution to Icelandic literature. The main tower of the cathedral scraped the sky, and great stone wings flanked its sides. James, who did not know much about building design, felt overwhelmed by the towering structure. He could understand its beloved status in the city. James admired the solemn cathedral for a while. Then he started to walk around the entrance, looking for his mission spot. However, after walking around for some time, he did not hear the notification of the successful check-in in his mind. Damn, do you want me to buy a ticket to the inner part of the church before the check-in can proceed? James grew angry when he thought about the incident with the Eiffel Tower. This system was a little too much sometimes. James tamed his temper and walked around in front of the church again, but he still got nothing. He had noticed that a security guard in front of the cathedral had started to clock him. After all, he did look like someone with ill intentions. James did not know whether to laugh or cry. He thought for a moment. Damn it, I'm a billionaire now. There are countless companies under my name and I own properties all over the world. I can afford the damn ticket. He knew it was time for him to change his perspective, let go of the petty little farmer mentality of his past. He should let go of the past altogether, the time he was constantly dreaming about buying a house and getting married in New York City. In the end, he hadn't been able to even afford a toilet in New York City, and his girlfriend had dumped him. That arduous and dark period of his life made him deathly afraid of poverty. It was the reason that his miserly instincts were so deeply rooted. However, it was all in the past. James decided to change from now on. There were not many tourists at this time of the year. It didn't take long to get through the line. James paid for a ticket and prepared to enter the cathedral. However, the security guard who had noticed him earlier was still staring at him. James wanted to walk over and ask him, "Hey brother, do I look like a bad person? Is it written on my face?" But it was better to forget about it. After checking his ticket, an attendant politely gestured James inside. Just as he took a step into the main hall of the cathedral, the sound of a successful check-in notification rang in his mind. Check-in successful. Congratulations. You have obtained 100% shares of the hotel. The relevant information and documents will be delivered to you by a professional courier soon. Next mission spot, San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge. Congratulations. Host mission spot has reached 10. Level up to level 2. Congratulations. Host has obtained 200 billion US dollars. I have deposited it into the Swiss bank for you. A series of notifications rang out in an instant, causing James's body to tremble. Internally, he was cursing wildly. Damn it, you insane system. I can't believe you actually used this move again. James seriously suspected that it was deliberately provoking him. His stunned look made the attendant at the door frown. He gently asked, "Sir, are you all right?" James realized that he had lost his composure. He quickly smiled at the attendant and said, "I'm fine, thanks." James walked quickly into the cathedral. He inadvertently glanced at the security guard outside the door and saw that he was walking quickly toward him with the baton in his hand. Uh-oh, he really suspects me. James quickened his pace and walked forward. The guard seemed to reconsider, putting away his baton awkwardly and returning to his post. When James reached the inner part of the church, he thought to himself, "Wait, I think I just heard the system say that I have leveled up to level 2 and that the reward is $200 billion. $200 billion? My heart can't take it anymore. Wait, let me breathe properly. 200 billion US dollars. What kind of absurd concept was that? Was it so awesome to level up? This was just level 2. He already had a total of $300 billion. After that, he would level up to levels 3, 4, 5. Was there that much money in the world? James considered developing the moon into a private warehouse to store his money. He was amused by the thought and couldn't help but laugh. In the spacious and echoey church, he instantly attracted the attention of the tourists in the distance. Everyone thought that he was simple-minded. Only then did James realize that he had again lost his composure. He got his laughter under control and walked toward the elevator of the main tower. Since he had already bought the ticket, it would be a waste not to go. He decided to go up and take in the beautiful scenery. Anyway, the person sent by the system hadn't arrived yet. As James walked, he admired the internal structure of the cathedral. The inner chamber of the main tower was over 90 feet tall, and it could hold up to 1,200 people. There was an elevator at the back of the main tower. It carried passengers to the top, which was over 200 feet high, and afforded an unforgettable view of the city. After passing through the main hall, James arrived at the elevator. There was a staff member waiting to take visitors up, and because there were very few tourists, it was not crowded. To be more precise, James was the only prospective passenger. The young lady in charge of operating the elevator was of Asian descent. She looked at James and her gaze became somewhat friendly. As the elevator began its ascent, she kept looking at him. She wanted to speak to him, but she seemed shy. Finally, she mustered up her courage and said, "Kumusta." This was a Tagalog word meaning hello. It was the native language of the Philippines, and James did not understand her at all. He wondered if this young lady was even talking to him. He guessed it was an Icelandic word. If it wasn't for the fact that he was the only other person in the elevator, he would not have thought that she was addressing him. James's nonplussed reaction made the operator feel awkward for a moment. James quickly communicated with her in English. "Hello, were you talking to me just now?" The girl nodded and replied in English. "Yes, I was saying hello in Tagalog. I really like Eastern culture. My name is Jaya. That's my given name. But I also have a Western name, Susan. You can call me Susan if you like." "Are you an international student from the Philippines?" James asked politely. "Oh, no, I am a local. This is where I was born and raised. My great-grandfather settled here and our family has been living in Iceland for 4 generations," Susan explained seriously. "Oh, to be able to live in a place with beautiful scenery like a painting, to be able to see the brilliant and colorful polar lights, to freeze your booty off nightly. You must love it," James said with a humorous smile. James had successfully made Susan laugh. There were 2 shallow dimples in her cheeks, and when she smiled, she looked especially adorable. The 2 of them chatted until the elevator reached the top floor. Because Susan still had work to do, James waved goodbye and went to take in the view. The hype was justified. Standing at this position, the entire city of Reykjavik was in sight. In the distance, he saw a quiet bay, the vast Atlantic Ocean, and water vapor rising from the hot springs. Everything was so beautiful, quiet, and peaceful. James felt like he was in a place that had been forgotten by the world. It was uniquely peaceful. It could make a person forget time, space, pain, everything. There was only one flaw. The wind was too strong. Even though his physical fitness was at peak level, and he was able to withstand the cold, he still felt a little beaten up after being buffeted by the pummeling gales. James's phone rang. It displayed an unknown number. He assumed that the person who had sent the information to the hotel must have arrived. James answered the phone and said, "Hello, who is this?" A man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello. May I ask if you're James, Mr. Tucker?" "Yes, I'm James Tucker," James replied. "Oh, Mr. Tucker, hello. I am Sorrel, and I'm in charge of getting you the information. May I ask where you are at the church? I'm at the gate." James replied, "I'm at the top of the cathedral right now. Wait for me there. I'll come down right now." "Okay, Mr. Tucker." Sorrel ended the call. His voice had sounded a little excited. James rang for the elevator. It arrived very quickly, disgorging a few tourists. Susan smiled at James and said, "Going down?" The two of them chatted very naturally on the ride down. "Sir, I still don't know your name," Susan said. "Oh, right. My name is James." When the elevator reached the bottom floor, James waved goodbye and quickly walked toward the church door. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to exit the church, Susan caught up with him. She said, "James, if you have some extra time, I hope you will come to my house as my guest. My grandfather and my parents are very hospitable, especially to people from the States like you." James was called off by Susan's invitation, but when he saw the security guard from before eyeballing him, he smiled and said, "Of course, I would be happy to." Susan smiled. She handed a piece of paper to James and said, "This is my number. Remember to call me." Then she quickly ran away.